see Michigan here.
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear Pig, aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am. Keep those cards and letters coming.
A few weeks ago, the College Football Playoff Committee has already set their playoff in motion, if you know what I mean. Welcome back, everyone, to the ZK Sports Show. For those who are new to this channel, I make sports content, primarily from football content, which is probably the biggest thing right now. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, like this video, share it with people you know, and give them a shout out. So anyway, we have our playoff formula set and match. It is going to be Georgia, Ohio State in the Peach Bowl, and Michigan and TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. I'm going to make my predictions right now. So starting off with the Peach Bowl, we have Georgia and Ohio State. So let's look at Georgia right now. When we look at Georgia, they definitely seem to be dominant. You know, people are going to probably point this out in the comments, you know. Oh, Georgia had easy opponents. Well, they had them at the beginning, you know. Oregon, I feel like, is a pretty overrated program. FCS school, you know, South Carolina. I feel like South Carolina did kind of decent this year, not going to lie. But they were very disappointing. Kent State, low non-power 5 FBS school. Missouri, that did give them a little bit of a scare. As you can see right there, give them a little scare. Auburn just completely fell apart. Vanderbilt, Florida was very disappointing this year. Tennessee, that was a pretty big game for them. Mississippi State, another one. Kentucky did put a little bit of a scare on them, but that was a dominant win. Georgia Tech, dominant win. LSU, pretty dominant win, as you saw in my SEC Championship reaction video. Now, it might seem that they had a pretty easy schedule, but we look at the wins, we see them blow out like teams. Like, we see that. Though Kent State did put up a fight, they couldn't really handle with Georgia. They really couldn't handle with them. Florida couldn't handle with them. Vanderbilt, if it's Vanderbilt, what do you expect? Tennessee did put up a fight, but that is Tennessee. That was the #1 team at the time. So they sort of kind of fell apart at the end of the season. LSU fell apart after that Texas A&M loss, which I do not mention. So it might seem that they kind of had an easy schedule, but they had some Tennessee. They actually had a good opponent. When we look at Ohio State, it's different. I feel like Ohio State, you know, decent opponent, overrated opponent. Cupcake. You know, a little bit of a scare right there. Cupcake. A little bit of a scare right there, I guess. And, of course, we had Michigan. You know, we had Michigan in there. And they kind of needed luck. I feel like Ohio State has kind of been given their way to the college football playoff, you know. If USC doesn't lose against Utah, they would not be in the playoff. They just wouldn't. They would not be in this playoff without Utah. So, in my opinion, thank Utah, Ohio State fans. Thank Utah. All right? You got to give them their thanks. In their Michigan game, they're kind of their biggest game of the season. They did not look good. Like, they just didn't look good. At the beginning, they looked okay. You know, they were up at half. Then at the end of the game, they just kind of fell apart. I don't know. Their defense was struggling. Offense, I thought, no, Stroud did okay, but I feel like C.J. Stroud isn't really that good of a quarterback, to be honest. He's not like Justin Fields or a Dwayne Haskins quarterback. He's nothing like that, in my opinion. So when we look at this matchup right here, easily Georgia, in my opinion, is taking this. One, because of the dominant defense. And I feel like their offense is a pretty good back. Yeah, they do a pretty good job on offense. Ohio State, I feel like, is not going to be able to handle that Georgia defense. Stroud is going to have a hard time trying to read the defense, especially that D-line I've heard is really good on Georgia. That's kind of my reason there. Anyway, when we look at the next matchup, the Fiesta Bowl, Michigan versus TCU. We look at Michigan's schedule. They've kind of had an easy schedule. Cupcake. Maybe a scare right there, but cupcake. I guess a team there. I feel like Penn State is kind of overhyped every year. So cupcake. Ohio State, that was kind of another rivalry game, but that was a pretty good blowout. And of course, Purdue. We all thought Purdue would give them a scare. That's what we thought Purdue was, because Purdue is known for making upsets, right? We all thought that. But we were wrong. So another cupcake team. Michigan just has an easier schedule, in my opinion, because they've been beating up on teams that are lower than them. I could say this team that really gave them a little bit of scare was Maryland. And I guess you could say maybe Iowa. But the rest of the teams are really good. Oh, wait, I'm looking at Illinois. Illinois never gave them a scare. I was actually watching that game. So they gave them a little bit of scare. So let me change my mind. That was kind of a scare game. So these two are scare games. Kind of the rest are cupcake opponents. Other than Ohio State and Penn State, in my opinion. Those games, they kind of were to win. So that's kind of my side there. Going to TCU for a minute. They have just... Wow. I feel like TCU has had the hardest schedule, in my opinion. So when we look at... Starts off pretty easy, but then you run into Oklahoma. Oklahoma, in my opinion, was very disappointing this year. They were just disappointing. I think people went into having that's a top 5 team. Oklahoma's a top 5. No. They were not a top 5 team this year. They looked terrible. Like, just terrible. Let's go to Oklahoma real quick. Look at them. 6-6. Just absolutely atrocious. Losing to teams. Losing to their rival. 49-0. 49-0. Not making the Big 12 championship. That's gotta make you angry, Oklahoma. You know that? That's gotta make you angry. So we go back to TCU. Kansas, surprisingly, a decent opponent this year. Usually a basketball school. That gave him a little bit of scare. Oklahoma State gave him a scare. Pretty easy win over Kansas State. West Virginia, Texas Tech. They had a Big 12, in my opinion, was somewhat competitive this year, to be honest. Without Oklahoma and I guess Texas not kind of battling out, they had a pretty hard journey, but they definitely managed to get to the Big 12 championship. So, in the Big 12 championship, we saw Duggan went off. Like Max Duggan, I'm just pronouncing him Duggan. Duggan just went off. Like, he just went off. I don't have any words to describe his performance, but he was definitely pulling it together, trying to get him a win, but they just couldn't. Kansas State won that, 31-28, and regardless if they won or lose, they were going to make the playoff. It's a matter of what kind of seed are they going to get in that playoff, and they got the 3 seed. They got that 3 seed, so that's what they got. I feel like Kansas State, that Big 12 is a very defensive league, in my opinion, so I feel like their defense got the best. Their offense was also really good in that game, so I'll give them credit for that. And that was a really fun game for me to watch. So when we look at it, I see Georgia, and I'm going to pick Michigan for this one. I'm picking Michigan. I feel like Michigan can take it. But I could also see TCU winning. So that is my thoughts. So we go to my graph over here. My final is going to be Georgia and Michigan. And I'm going to pick Georgia because, one, that defense is just so good. I'm not sure if McCarthy can handle that. If they make it, of course. But I'm not sure if McCarthy can handle that. Not sure if Michigan's played against a tough defense this year. I'm not sure if they've done that. They've really played against kind of, offensive teams like Ohio State, Penn State. Those are kind of offensive teams. They're not really defensive teams. That is my opinion on that. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you guys like. Subscribe if you're new. We just hit 25 subscribers. So if we get 30 subscribers before January, that would be amazing. Thank you guys for watching. And I feel like I'm going to post another video soon regarding my Heisman reaction, because I have a lot of stuff to say about that. So anyway, stay tuned. I'll post a video soon.
Stay off the weed.